I want to tell you a story from my personal life today to explain why 99% of teachers, coaches, consultants, leaders, so-called leaders, suck. Brutal. Absolutely brutal. I call them pretend experts. Long on style, short on substance. They are not, I repeat, not serious students of their craft. I'm talking about the majority of school teachers, Sunday school teachers, coaches like me, consultants like me, hockey coaches, football coaches, t-ball coaches, so-called leaders and teachers. Michael McLean, brassballsvideos.com. If I'm your cup of whiskey, you can subscribe at brassballs.com. And I shoot these broken iPhone videos every single day. I don't take cupcake days off. If you subscribe at brassballs.com for free, I'll be in your email box every morning at 5:59 a.m. with a different video. I talk about the only three things that matter: wealth, health, and happiness, without the whiskey chaser. So I have a personal story to share, but it all began years ago when I first got into coaching. I started coaching amateur hockey when I was still in high school, and I knew right as soon as I started coaching my first group of little kids in hockey, I was one of the lucky ones. I realized that I had found my mission in life. Think about that. I was 19 years old, and I literally was aimless. I didn't know what I wanted to do, whether I wanted to go to college or university. And I went out to the hockey arena. We had to volunteer to coach a team. It was part of our phys ed program. You had to volunteer and coach something to get past your gym class. So I showed up at the hockey arena one September and went out on the ice with the kids, and literally the rest is history. I won Coach of the Year that year, working with 12-year-olds. And I literally found my passion, my obsession, and my calling in that part of my life. And from that day forward, I was like, I want to coach hockey for a living. I want to coach hockey for a living. I want to coach amateur, pro. I want to coach the National Hockey League. And, fast forward another 10 years later, and I accomplished all those goals, owning my own amateur hockey team, 2 different franchises, coaching minor pro as an assistant coach and head coach until I was fired. And then I became an 8-figure entrepreneur over time in the insurance business, the barbershop business, the consulting business, you name it. So quite a journey from ex-pro coach to 8-figure entrepreneur. One of the things that I've noticed through this 31 years as an entrepreneur, I got into business when I was 12 years old, so I've been in it a long, long time, 3 generations. And one of the things that I've noticed is how rare, like a needle in a haystack, how rare outstanding teachers, coaches, and leaders are. The great Dan Lazonis, my daughter's homeschooling teacher, and the wizard behind the Einstein blueprint, he told me a few years ago, and it really stuck with me. He said, Michael, if you ever run into an outstanding teacher or an outstanding coach, hire them. And he said, because they're as rare as hen's teeth. And Dan and his wife Inez had just raised and homeschooled their two children, through the last 15 to 20 years. And he said, if you ever find a great teacher, a great coach, hire them, because they're as rare as a needle in a haystack. I'll never forget that. And I thought at the time, I said, well, I think there's lots of great coaches out there. I've studied the best of the best, the Jimmy Johnsons, the Mike Ditkas, the Pat Rileys, the Mike Krzyzewskis, the Scotty Bowmans, the Nick Sabans of the world. But then we started, Emery started school, and she started to get involved in some sports and into theater and crafts and chess and math and all this different stuff. Horseback riding, you name it, like any other kid. More activities than time. But the thing that started to really stick with me was how bad most coaches are. And I just yesterday sat through a session, and it'll be the last session for this particular coach. She's a new coach in my daughter's life. And I took Emery to this session yesterday. And I literally sat there for 1 hour, which was the training session. And this person, God bless her, she's a nice person. But I literally sat there and watched her tell my daughter over an hour what not to do. Now think about this for a second. This may not be something that you're aware of, but as a father and as a husband or a grandfather or as an entrepreneur with employees, you're a coach, you're a teacher, and you're a leader. And the number one sin that I see with most lousy teachers, lousy coaches, and lousy leaders is they consistently tell their students, their athletes, whoever they're teaching, what not to do. This is the ultimate red flag. This is the ultimate tell for a guy like me, who's been in the coaching business for over 20 years, that they're not serious students. They haven't studied coaching and teaching. They don't know how to influence. They don't know how to persuade. They don't know how to sell. They don't know how to motivate. And they don't know how to inspire. And that's coaching right there. So they go into coaching, or they go into teaching, or they go into a leadership position, and they expect to get paid, but they don't expect to be a serious student. So yesterday, I sat there for an hour, and I was just boiling because I knew that this was the one and only time this particular coach was going to be in my daughter's life. Last year here in Naples, I fired two separate tennis coaches. As soon as they were done their first session, it's hire slow and fire fast. Move on to the next one. Fired a pickleball coach, and art coaches, you name it. And I have to sift and sort. My wife Krista and I have to literally sift and sort through dozens, sometimes dozens and dozens of so-called professional teachers and coaches to find somebody who's competent. It's the same in the school system. 99% of school teachers are lousy. They'll take the paycheck, they'll take the pension, but then if you question them on their seriousness about their art or their craft, they have no answers. So I'll give you an example. So, by the way, I have zero sympathy for people who aren't serious students. If you're an entrepreneur and you're not a serious student of your craft, I have no sympathy for you. If you're a marketer or a copywriter or a husband or a father or a baseball coach or you teach Sunday school, if you're not a serious student of your art or your craft, which means you're just constantly reading, you're constantly listening to podcasts, you're studying biographies of the most successful people in these niches, then you're a pretender. You're not a contender. You're a fake guru. You're you deserve to starve. You deserve to struggle. You deserve to fail as a coach or a teacher. And nothing annoys me more than people who put out their shingle, expect to be paid to coach a sport, coach piano, coach chess, coach math, coach theater, coach whatever it is, sports, you name it, and they haven't done the time. They've taken the bare minimum. It's like a real estate agent who gets their license and that's the end of it. That's the end of their learning career. It's like the person who graduates from high school and that's the end of their learning career. It's like the person who graduates from university and that's the end of their learning career. When a top 1%, a great coach, a great teacher, and a great leader knows that there's no finish line. There's no finish line for learning. You're constantly reading, studying, listening, growing. You're serious about your craft and your art. So last year I watched a tennis lesson with my daughter. I mean, these guys are charging $120. So you would think that the guy's capable, right? He's got the fancy website. He's charging $120. He's a busy tennis pro in Southwest Florida. One of the worst coaches I've ever witnessed, and that's saying a lot, because I've seen and experienced a lot of bad coaching and a lot of bad teaching. So in this particular case, I sat over at the clay courts here in our community last year, and I watched this pinhead try and teach and communicate the game of tennis. My daughter's a pretty decent player. I mean, I can do this, right? Because I'm a tennis pro as well. I just wanted her to get some different coaching when we were here in Naples. I can do this myself. I used to be a tennis pro in my 20s and 30s. So instead, I sit there on the bench, and for the next 60 minutes, I listen to this low IQ tennis coach tell my daughter what not to do. Do you see the theme of this message? Lousy teachers, lousy coaches, and lousy leaders tell people what not to do. It's the ultimate tell that you don't know what the fuck you're doing. I would go even as far as saying, lousy husbands, lousy fathers, lousy communicators in their family. You're constantly telling the people in your life what not to do. Don't do this, don't do that, don't do this, don't do this, don't do that. What do you think that puts the mental focus on? What kind of a picture do you think that puts in your son or daughter's head, your queen's head, your athlete's head, your manager's head, your employee's head, your student's head? They're all of a sudden they're picturing what not to do, which is a negative frame. It's a negative frame. And that's exactly, then it attracts that exact thing, right? Don't miss. Oh my God, don't let up. And then all the person can do is focus on that negative thing. Don't miss that field goal. Don't let up. Lousy tomato can coaching. I mean, I don't think that I'm the greatest email marketing coach or hockey coach, but I sure as hell have put in my time reading hundreds and hundreds of books on the great coaches, studying newsletters. When I was in the hockey business, I got serious about going deep on hockey coaching. I literally immersed myself in how to be a hockey coach. When I got in the insurance business, I got serious about immersing myself in how the hell do you sell and market insurance. And I went in all the way. I burned the ships. I read hundreds of books on marketing, hundreds of newsletters on insurance marketing. I invested, tens of thousands of dollars in my personal development. Same thing in the barbershop business. How did I take a barbershop that I never had any experience, and for 6 years that I owned it, we're number one in the whole country. I went in the deep end of the pool, and I immersed and invested in my education. I was a serious student of my new craft. So when this ding-a-ling was coaching my daughter in tennis, and he's no different than most of the rest, I knew he was gone, right? I knew I was going to swift sword him. I was going to curate him. I was going to cut him out of my life. I cannot stand pretenders. I cannot stand long on style, short on substance. If you can't teach my child properly, if you can't teach your athletes properly, if you can't teach your employees properly, if you can't be a serious leader, then why the hell would I give you money to be around me or anybody else? I'll do it myself. So now I coach my daughter in tennis myself because it's done properly. So I learned, and admittedly, I used to make this mistake when I first started coaching at hockey at age 19. I was just a kid, wet behind the ears, just finishing high school. But when I started studying dozens and dozens and dozens of books on coaching and psychology and fitness and hockey coaching, all of a sudden I discovered, and it was Jimmy Johnson's first book, the two-time Super Bowl Dallas Cowboys head coach, one of my greatest coaches to study. I read in his first book, Turning It Around. Now, the book Turning It Around, I read 25 years ago when I first got into coaching. And it's the book of how he took the Cowboys from the outhouse to the penthouse in 5 years, back-to-back Super Bowls. And he talked about how he's a psychology major. So Jimmy Johnson has a degree in human psychology. And man, oh man, has it served him well as a Hall of Fame NHL and Hall of Fame college coach. The guy's a pure winner because of the depth of his knowledge. He's got wide and deep knowledge when it comes to human behavior. There's lots of coaches that are better X and O people, better defensive coordinators, offensive coordinators. That's not the difference between winning and losing. You can hire those guys. But Jimmy Johnson is a walking master of human persuasion, influence, communication. And what's the one main thing that he talked about in that book and the other book that he wrote more recently is he talked about how he learned in college in psychology about the self-fulfilling prophecy, right? So a self-fulfilling prophecy, if you treat somebody as they are, exactly as they are, no different, that person or player or athlete or student will remain the same. But if you treat that athlete or that student or that son or that daughter as the person, the better version that you uniquely see them as, in other words, you see them even better than they are, and you treat them as such, then they're going to become that better person, that more skilled person. And the self-fulfilling prophecy is expectation, right? He expected the Cowboys to improve. He expected the Cowboys to dominate. He expected the Cowboys to win Super Bowls. And all of a sudden, over time, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We didn't know we weren't supposed to win because Jimmy always communicated with us every word out of that man's mouth. Every video, every talk was about what we're going to do. This is exactly what I need from you. This is exactly what we're going to do. And in all the years that he coached the Cowboys, I can tell you right now, you could put on one hand of fingers the number of times that an outstanding championship coach like him told Emmitt Smith or told Troy Aikman or Michael Irvin what not to do. Even in his book, he talks about it. You know, the place goal kicker. He's going out with 3 seconds left on the clock to win the game. If he makes the field goal, they win the game. If he doesn't make it, they lose. And Jimmy would always pull that kicker in, and he would say to the kicker, make it. Make it. And surprisingly, maybe to you, a lot of coaches, a lot of tomato can coaches, a lot of pretenders in every sport would say, you know, the wind's going left, or don't hit it too hard, or you're really going to have to kick that high, anything and everything on what not to do. And Jimmy was the exact opposite. He talked about how he used to tell Emmitt Smith, hit those holes with aggression, attack those holes in the line. So when they hit that, when Emmitt Smith's handed the ball, in his mind, he's not worried about this or that, things he can't control. He's like, hit those holes with aggression. So he's looking for holes and he's hitting them. No hesitation, no thinking. No hesitation, no thinking. And I've used this ever since Jimmy Johnson taught me that. I've used it in all levels of communication. I use it in my consulting, my masterminds, when I'm writing newsletters, when I'm writing telegrams, when I'm shooting videos like this, when I'm sending emails, when I'm coaching power skating. I'm coaching kids age 5 up to pro. So think about that. And my message never deviates. I constantly and consistently tell anybody I'm teaching what I want them to do. And now the Jimmy Johnson theory of self-fulfilling prophecy, I took that into the insurance business. I took that into the barbershop business, and now I take it into the coaching business. So I'll give you an example. When I went in the insurance business, I would have these stand-up meetings once a month where I'd pass out the bonus checks. We'd spin the wheel, and that'd be it. They'd be 5 minutes long. No sit-down meetings for yours unruly. So I'd have everybody standing in there, and I would talk for maybe 2 minutes about this is what we did well, this is what we need to improve on, hand out the bonus checks, good morning. And then from there on, it was like, I told them what we wanted to do. Okay, we want to get that email, want to capture that email. We want to pick up the phone. We want to smile and pick up the phone, smile and pick up the phone. And I did even more of this self-fulfilling prophecy in telling my staff what we wanted from them, not what we didn't want, when I did my weekly listening to phone calls. So I would have 3 short listening to phone calls every single week in my basement office, where I'd bring in my 3 salesmen or my 4 service reps or my receptionist. There was 3 meetings, and they were about 35, 45 minutes. And we'd literally sit in my basement office year after year, week after week, and we would listen to phone calls that they took. And I'd play good phone calls and make points. I'd play some negative phone calls and we'd make corrections. But the stuff that I kept pounding away was like Jimmy to the field goal kicker. Make it. Make it. And I'd say to my sales guys, pick up the phone and smile and pick up the phone. Smile and pick up the phone. Smile and pick up the phone. And we had little sayings all through, even our service people, is capture that email. Capture that email. Protect your client like you're going to court. Protect our client. Protect our client. And, you know, we did all these things. Dress for success. Dress for success. Be early. Be a pro. And everything was what to do. Never, ever, ever did a word come out of my mouth saying what not to do. Be a pro. Be punctual. Dress for success. Capture the email. Make the money, close the sale. My dad's favorite one, get the check, get the check, get the check. I'm leaving the office, one of my first sales calls in the insurance business, you know, like a $30,000 farm policy. And, you know, I'm a little concerned about this, and I'm worrying about this, and I'm worried about this. And my dad yells down the hallway when I'm leaving, get the check, get the check. One thing that I can control, get the check. So I drive there, and what am I focused on? I'm focused on the positive outcome. That's the mental picture. I'm the place kicker who's going to make it. I'm going to make that kick. You know, Troy Aikman, he used to say to Aikman all the time, he's like, you know, play to win, play to win, play to win, play offense, stay aggressive. Always in Troy's ear, especially as the athlete is starting to maybe, I wouldn't say choke, but maybe flinch under the pressure. Big spotlight, they're starting to be on their heels instead of their toes. And here comes Jimmy down to talk to Troy, and he's like, play to win, get back to playing to win, play to win. You know, be aggressive, make that throw. And that's the kind of balls to the wall team he had as a result of that language that was constantly in their ears and their minds. So I also, in the barbershop, we'd have our weekly meetings. We'd listen to phone calls and we'd talk about things. And, you know, even with the phone scripts and capturing emails and all this stuff, everything was play to win, play offense, smile and answer the door, smile and answer the phone, dress like a pro. And one of my all-time favorites was behave like you're at the next level, behave like you're in the wrong league, My friend Sheldon Keefe is the head coach of the Toronto Maple Leafs, the most important job in the NHL, the most high pressure job. And when Sheldon was coaching junior hockey before he made it the NHL, he always told his athletes, I'm sure he tells them, you know, on the way up, but he coached at all these minor levels, and he had a theme which was always act like you're in the wrong league. Always act like you're in the wrong league. And what did he mean by that? What he meant by that to his young athletes is, if you're in junior, act like you're in pro. If you're in junior, act like you're in Division I college. The way you dress, the way you work out, the way you train, the way you eat, the way you drink water, the way you sleep, act like you're in the wrong league. And he won 5 consecutive junior A championships before he went on to the pro level with that simple mission, act like you're in the wrong league. So when I was in the insurance business, I acted like I was in the wrong league. I dressed like I was on Wall Street. I worked like I was on Wall Street. Same thing in the hockey business. Like I ran my franchise like it was an NHL franchise. Like literally, I had a locker room that, you know, most NHL teams would be happy with. The way I dressed, the way I prepared, the way I coached, the way I recruited. I acted like I was in the wrong league. Most teachers, most coaches, most leaders are lousy, and they don't act like they're in the wrong league. They don't even know how to communicate a message. So with this tennis guy, back to my tomato can guy, is I like to have a little fun with these pretenders sometimes, right? It helps my rage. And I've walked up to many coaches and teachers, and I've said to them, because I'm a learning machine, right? Like, I don't have any special gifts. I haven't been blessed with any special talents. Everything that I've done in life, I've done badly at the start. When I used to shoot videos, I did them badly at the start. And a year later, I was a little bit better. When I was in the insurance business, I started doing the marketing badly at the start. My emails that I wrote, I did badly at the start. I've always been willing to look really bad to eventually become really good. So everything I do now, writing, coaching masterminds, email marketing, these videos, I started out badly. No talent. I'm more of a grinder than you. Have a lot more gifts than I do, but I'm willing to look bad for a long time to eventually look good. So I'm always amused at these coaches who are bad, right? Bad teachers, bad coaches, bad leaders. So I like to sometimes have some fun and question them. So this tennis coach is a good example. I walked up to him, I started talking about the great tennis coaches in history. And I mentioned Nick Bollettieri, one of the greatest tennis coaches in history. I mentioned his book, and I mentioned the documentary because Bollettieri died. And I'm talking about this kick-ass documentary. And here's a guy who makes his full-time living as a tennis coach. The guy's like, 27, 28. He didn't know who the fuck I was talking about. I kid you not. When I said Nick Bollettieri, just glass over his eyes. When I said, well, he runs the largest tennis academy in history here in Florida in Bradenton, just absolute crickets. When I talked about his book, My Aces, My Faults, that I read when I was coaching hockey, absolutely crickets. Same thing, I talked about the documentary. I thought maybe this low IQ coach would, at least know what's on Netflix, right? He must be able to do that. Not a clue. I should watch that, he said. What's his name again? So I have no sympathy for people that put out their shingle and pretend that they're experts when actually it's Bush League. I have a hockey saying for all of these coaches and consultants. It's Bush League. There's red flags everywhere. There's tells everywhere. And the biggest one is they don't read. They don't read books. They don't read magazine articles. They don't listen to podcasts. They don't know jack shit about their own industry. They don't know the history. They don't know they wouldn't coach in basketball and they wouldn't know who Bobby Knight is. They wouldn't know who John Wooden is, that kind of stuff. And if they do know about them, they don't know anything about them, right? John Wooden's Pyramid of Success, it was always up on my wall. And there's lots of people out there who are coaching and they're like, who the hell's that? Or what's the Pyramid of Success? And I'm just like, wow. I did the same thing with, I always ask these coaches before I turf them, I always say to them, what books are you reading presently? What books are you reading presently on coaching? This one's always the best. It's just complete crickets. What book are you reading or books are you reading right now on coaching? I've asked this of all of Emery's coaches through the years. Same answer all the time. I don't read. You imagine a school teacher that doesn't read? Could you imagine a horseback riding coach who's never read a book on horseback riding? Can you imagine a hockey coach or a chess teacher or a guitar teacher or a piano teacher who's never read a book on influence, persuasion, or leadership? They don't know who General Patton is. They don't know who they don't know any of the great leaders of our time. They're just deep as a puddle, as my dad would say. Deep as a puddle. They know nothing about their so-called expertise. It'd be like a doctor not knowing anything about health. So I have no sympathy. I fire their asses and then I replace them. But the only problem is it's hard to replace them with anybody better. But I actually took Dan Lazonis's advice, which was kind of self-serving because I ended up hiring him this year. I pulled Emery out of school, and Krista and I have Emery being homeschooled 4 days a week with Dan. It's $400 an hour investment, 4 days a week, and it's been a complete and utter life-changing experience for her. And I found a great coach and I hired him. I didn't care what the price was. Like Dan always said, he said, give your left kidney if you have to, if you find a good coach. And he talked about, it took like 25 times for them to find a good piano coach for his son and his daughter, that kind of stuff. So now I'm a believer, right? Emery has been blessed with 3 tremendous, outstanding coaches. The 1% of 1%ers, right? The Jimmy Johnsons. She has a school teacher at home who is just kick-ass and take names. She is firm, she is structured, she is prepared. She has a passion for children. She has an obsession with teaching. So we've been incredibly blessed. Here, of course, you have Dan. He's just a man on a mission, right? Like he believes in elevating children to a level that you can't imagine. We focus on entrepreneurship, podcasts, direct response, chess, math, fitness. I mean, it's next level, right? Her exposure is next level, and it's a massive investment for her. And then we also, Emery has just an outstanding horseback riding equestrian coach. And she's a young girl who's got a military background, right? And it just seems that these coaches with a military background, they're serious students, and they just make the best teachers, the best consultants, and the best leaders. So that's my brass balls rant. This is therapy for me, because after I watched that yesterday, I came home and talked to my wife and sat in the hot tub, and I'm like, oh my God, most coaches, most teachers, most leaders are anything but. They just basically suck. And they suck because they choose not to be serious students of their craft and their art. I will tell you this something, brother. The second that I stop reading every day, the second I stop learning every day, the second I stop growing every day, you'll never see me again. I'll never shoot a video. I'll never send an email. I'll never write a newsletter. I'll never run a mastermind. That's called integrity. I will not whore myself out there as something I'm not. The second I'm not willing to, study for 3 to 5 hours a day on my craft. That's how much I read and study a day, anywhere from 1 hour to 5 hours. So most days I fall in the middle, 2 to 3 hours of study. I have 15 things I can talk about in a video, and I choose one. I have 100 articles I could write for a newsletter, and I choose 5 or 6. I have 15 options for an email every day because of my study, the library in my head, and I choose one. And the day I'm not willing to put in the work, the day I become a charlatan or a pretend expert or a just show up and get paid teacher, is the day I'll be gone. You'll never have to worry about me. The day this isn't my obsession and my passion, I'm gone. Because there isn't a teacher, a leader, or a coach anywhere on earth that doesn't absolutely bleed it. If you don't bleed it, if it's not right there in your DNA, you ain't a coach. You ain't a real teacher. You aren't a leader. So keep this in mind. If I can give you one pro tip, everything in your life, whether it's your queen, your children, your teenagers, your grandchildren, your employees, anybody and everybody in your world, get in the habit of telling them what to do. Make that pass, okay? Make that kick. Play to win. Do you know, I've been driving my daughter, Emery, to school since she was 2.5 years old. It's one of the true joys of my life. It's that time, 10 minutes to town, 10 minutes home in the afternoon, but it's our 10 minutes. And here in Florida, I drive her to Dan's and back. It's our 10 or 15 minutes. And Emery and I talk about life, we talk about friends, we talk about marketing, we talk about entrepreneurship, whatever's on her mind. And it's been one of the greatest joys and blessings in my life is this time behind the wheel with her. We don't listen to music. We don't do anything but talk. T-I-M-E, that's how we spell love in my house. And it's amazing because I've been driving her to school now for eight years, give or take. And do you know the last thing that I always say to her every morning when I drop her off at school, when I drop her off at the horse barn, when I walk her up to the pickleball courts, when I take her to the arena, when she's going to theater practice, when she's, whatever it is she's doing, I always say the same thing. I always tell her what to do. In other words, I say, play to win, play offense, and the very last thing I've said to her for 8 years straight in every activity I take her to, be relentless. What do you think her mindset is in all these things? When she's going to the theater, when she's going to the pickleball courts, when she's heading to math lessons, when she's nervous, when she's anxious, whatever it is, the message never changes. Be relentless, play to win, play offense. And that's the mental picture in her mind. It's just, okay, I can control these controllables. That's the only thing I'm going to focus on, and I'm going to focus on playing to win. I'll never forget when we won our Barclay Cup championship. I've never shared this story, but I told it to my champion mastermind members only, but I'll share it here with you. In 2019, we did the impossible. We won the Barclay Cup Junior B championship. We're a small community of 6,000 people, and we beat the big city white-collar powerhouse team. The team we played had only lost 4 or 5 games the whole year, and after losing game 1, we swept them 4 straight. So we won the best of 7 in 5 games and literally shocked the junior hockey world. It was David versus Goliath, and David won in 5 games. And I'll never forget the intermission before the final period. And we were winning 4-1. But I could feel the tension in our locker room, where we're 20 minutes away from doing something that is next to impossible. And you could feel the tension for the first time. There was no pressure on us, right? We were playing fancy free the whole series. We were playing with house money. Nobody expected us to win a game. And here we are up 3-1 with 1 period to go. And I just thought to myself, I'm like, wow, this, all of a sudden the energy has shifted. I see guys in there, they're tight, they're nervous, all this stuff. And my assistant coach, Jeff Jordan, who's in the American Hockey League now with the St. Louis Blues, I'll never forget it. I was going to make the biggest mistake of my coaching career. I was going to go down that hallway just before we went back on the ice for the final period, and I was going to give them the brimstone speech, the fire and brimstone. I was going to give them my best Tony Robbins, my best Nick Saban, whatever you want to call it, fire and brimstone. And I was just about to walk out the door, and I was all excited, and Jeff just stopped me. He put his hand on my chest, very experienced guy, multiple championships as a coach, and he said, "Coach," he said, "take a breath." I took a deep breath, and he said, "Nothing changes. Everything stays the same. Everything stays the same. 25 shifts to win. Play to win. Play to win." He goes, "That's the message." For the last 2 weeks in this series, we had told the guys, win 1 shift at a time, 25 shifts a period, 3 periods in a game is 75 shifts. We didn't care about the crowd. We didn't care about the odds makers. We didn't care about the referees. We didn't care about anything we could not control. So it'd be like, we've won 1 shift, win a 2nd shift, win a 3rd shift. And after 3 periods of winning 25 shifts, and we'd actually come in the locker room in between each period and say, okay, we were 21-3 that period, or we were 19-6 that period. And that's all we talked about, was what we could control, winning shifts. You know, the crowd's getting on you bad, doesn't matter, win a shift, win the next shift, win a shift. And here I was about to walk in to the final period, potentially, and I was emotionally drunk, and I was going to start talking about, you know, this is our time, and we're 20 minutes. And Jeff stopped me, and he said, and he knew that was the exact wrong thing to do. I was going to tell those kids what not to do. You know, like I was going to go in there and tell them, you know, don't make any high risk passes and all this other horse shit. And he gave me the Jimmy Johnson, where 25 shifts, play to win, play to win, play to win. And that's it. And I'll never forget, the final score was 6-3, and that's all we focused on. The score got as close as 4-3, and Jeff was just win the next shift, win the next shift, win the next shift, and then we blew it open with a couple of goals, and the rest was history. So it just shows you that what we tell the people in our world to do, and it's so important that you tell them what to do and never what not to do. With that team, I'll never forget when I first bought it, one of my great assistant coaches, we were coaching one of my first games ever as an exhibition hockey game in my first season. And we scored with 5 minutes left to go ahead. 5-4, didn't matter, just an exhibition game, but the guys were pretty excited, right? Like, you're pretty excited about going ahead with maybe 3 or 4 minutes left. And we were all new coaches, right, to each other. So my one assistant coach, he said, he yells out to the team as soon as we scored, he says, "Don't let up." And I just about vomited. I wanted to go down that bench and I wanted to grab him by the throat and throw him over on the ice. I was that mad. And I said, I calmed myself down and I walked down, it's exhibition, and I said, "Don't ever let me hear you tell one of our athletes again what not to do." I said the correct coaching in that situation, instead of saying, "Don't let up," I said the correct coaching in all these situations is to tell them what to do. And I said, in that situation, tell them, stay aggressive, play to win. And I said to explain to him and the other coaches after that, I said, we always tell our athletes what to do. We tell them and put that mental picture in their head, that movie in their mind, that they focus only on what they need to do. So all the players then are focusing on keep doing what we're doing, stay aggressive, play to win. And that's what my theme, Be Relentless, is all about. I've taken Emery to many things where she had butterflies, like she was in a theater production, she's played in big games, she's been in a lot of things for an 11-year-old. And the more there's pressure, the more everything stays the same, where I drive her there and I talk about controlling the controllable, trusting the process that's got her there, and playing to win, playing offense, and being relentless. That's it for today. That's all I got for today, but that's a good one. That's a good one. I mean, you know it as well as I do it. There's just so many lousy pretenders, teachers, coaches, and they turn the children. Good morning. They turn our children off of school. They turn our children off of sports. Like, the best teachers in the world should be kindergarten teachers, daycare teachers, grade 1 teachers, because no matter where a kid comes from, if you can instill a love of learning, a passion for reading, a passion for knowledge, then anybody has a chance. But the thing that bad teachers do, and bad coaches and bad consultants, is they turn our children away from things when they're trying them. That first tennis lesson, I don't like it. That first football, I don't like it. That first I'm no good at math. The first book, I don't want to read that. I don't like chess. I don't like fitness. And that's just bad coaching, bad parenting, bad coaching. And I've taken it so serious because I don't want to be the type of coach or father or husband that ever is the reason that somebody quits something. I want to inspire, I want to motivate, I want them to be linked to good things in a good way. One time, that's all limiting beliefs, right? I'm no good at math. I'm no good at writing. I'm no good at all of it's just bullshit limiting beliefs. You got to change your language. You got to focus on what you can control. And when you hear yourself spouting off toxic limiting beliefs, I'm an introvert, I don't like people, that's such horseshit. You can be both an introvert and an extrovert. I don't like going to the gym. Once again, limiting belief. I'm not good at math. Money, I've never been good with money. That's just stuff that you heard from lousy parents or lousy teachers or lousy coaches. Make sure that you're part of the solution moving forward and never part of the problem. Tell the people in your world what they need to do. That's it. I'm starting a brand new Moneyball mastermind. If you want more details, Marc Andre's email is below this video, marc@badassmillionaire.com. It's $9.97 a month. It's pocket change compared to my $50,000 and $30,000 and masterminds. What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about wealth, health, and happiness for a year. It's month to month. You can stay for 3 months, 6 months, 12 months, or 2 years. I don't care. But if you're interested, reply to this email, put mastermind or Moneyball in the subject line. And if you're watching this on YouTube, I appreciate you subscribing. I appreciate your comments, good or bad, to these videos. And you can email Marc Andre, marc@badassmillionaire.com, and just ask for some details about the mastermind. I'm looking for about 15 small business owners, $9.97 a year. It's going to blow the doors off your marketing. It's going to blow the doors off of your wealth. It's going to blow the doors off your health, and it's going to give you a chance to increase your happiness and peace of mind. So that's it. Remember Jimmy Johnson. Make that kick, brother. Make that kick. Play offense. Stay aggressive. And 2 words that changed my life and will change yours: be relentless.